Travis, welcome to Sacked. Only 6 Collingwood players have kicked more goals than you in black and white. Pretty amazing feat, isn't it, when you think about it, after starting as a young fella?
Yeah, it is. And I guess my whole career I got criticised for kicking goals. So I kicked a lot of points. So maybe if I converted a lot more of those points into goals, I'd be sitting a bit higher on that list.
Do you look at your career and you think, gee, I just achieved some extraordinary feats? Because I think a lot of the great stars, maybe had anxiety about their game and were always second-guessing themselves. We look at your legacy now and it's immense, and yet, as you say, there was a lot of criticism at times.
Yeah, I completely honest, I haven't really sat down and looked at the accolades that I received as an individual. I really enjoyed the team success that we had. And obviously 2010 was the pinnacle of my career, and that's where we won the grand final. So that's the most success. But yeah, I guess since I've finished now, I've been retired almost 3 years. And speaking to a few people, they bring up the good times of individual, and you never really realise what you did achieve. But there always has been that criticism of my career was my goal kicking, and probably overshadowed my whole football career because of that result. So,
nothing that you could do was sort of good enough for people are always going to mention the points rather than the goals you kicked.
Exactly, it was. And I'm sure I did a lot of good things on the footy field, not just missed a goal here and there. But they're the things that people want to remember. And I guess that's the world we live in. We don't really go to the positive, we go to the negative straight away. And I guess that was what my downfall of my football career was.
When were you happiest as a footballer? When did you or was there a period in your career where you just thought, I'm living the life of Riley? Or was there always something nagging away at you, given, whether it was the external stuff, whether it was not winning games of footy? I mean, most stars who have achieved what you've achieved had that 5 or 6 year purple patch where they're just on top of the world.
Oh, definitely. There was times in footy where footy came easy. I was drafted as a 17-year-old. I was born into a football family. I did work experience as a 15-year-old kid at the Collingwood Footy Club. So I've been there half my life. I'm 33 now. Spent numerous years there. So definitely, yeah, the purple patch of playing footy was there. But at the same time, you always had the same doubt as what you had when you were performing and playing well. You always questioned, could you do better? Could you do more?
Do you look at yourself now and say, I wish I had have enjoyed it a little bit more, that you're living that moment, you've got negative people, around you, and not in your family or anything like that, but other people externally. Did you enjoy it enough?
I enjoyed it, but I definitely didn't enjoy it enough. We'd play on a Friday or Saturday and have a really good win, but I'd sit there all weekend and question what I could have done better. So Monday morning I'd get in, watch my edits, and then that afternoon I'd be out on the track trying to perfect what I did wrong. So I didn't enjoy the highs. I always tried to go, myself the negative. I wanted to improve so much that I wanted to get out and do more. And I guess that was the way I tried to get the most out of myself. But at the same time, it was my biggest downfall.
Do you think people would be shocked about that, to think that you achieved what you did and yet, there were very few times in your footy career that you actually enjoyed it just, for what it was?
People who were close to me within the footy world, no, because they knew that's what drove me. It was an interesting one. I got drafted at a young age. Both my brothers were there at the Pies. They got delisted the same year, and that was the year I won my best and fairest. And I guess that's the year that I realised that footy was business. This wasn't a hobby anymore. This was a career, and had to make the most of it. So I think I was 20 at the time, and I realised that's when I really just got to knuckle down, because you don't know when your contract might be up, when your last game might be played. So the fun was taken away at a young age, and I realised it was a business. And looking back at it, it was probably a good thing as well for me to realise at a young age.
Let's go to the last year at the Pies. How tough was that season? You dropped for the Anzac Day clash. You talked about hoping you had some tickets in the bank there. You obviously were extraordinary football, but you probably had a bit of a slide for the couple of years leading into 2016.
Yeah, it was. 16 was an unusual one. I think I was All-Australian in 14, so who knows. I think the game changed a little bit, and our game style at the Collingwood Footy Club changed a little bit. And Anzac Day was the first time I've been dropped in my whole career since I think the first year I was playing footy. So it was a bit of a shock. But I guess looking back on it now, it was probably where I wasn't confronting a few things that were going on in my own life. Then obviously that's that anxiety. I was really just stressed majority of the time. I couldn't let it go. I was riding into games every week with the same pressures and anxiety that I didn't know what was going on. So it was a bit of a realisation for me. It was a tricky 6 months, but at the same time, I really used it as a bit of growth time for myself. I had some really good conversations with Eddie and Bucks about just certain things, how to manage football. And I guess what I was 29 at the time, 28, and just seeing where life was going.
A bloke called Mason Cox replaces you in that Anzac Day game. How was the message delivered to you? I know that Bucks through that particular weekend was weighing up whether you were going to play or not. How was the message delivered prior to that?
I think he kind of just sat us down. I think it was over a phone call, completely honest. I think we'd had a few conversations during the week, but obviously the final decision was that one. I took it on the chin because I guess I've been in enough conversations where I have seen it happen to other players. I've seen some players turn real bad and real sour and crack it when they do get dropped. So I kind of saw the growth that, all right, this is a learning curve. Let's try and make this a 2-week absence instead of a 10-week absence or the whole year. I think I was in the VFL for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Played at Casey Fields for my first time. There's a few interesting games in there. I remember playing down at Casey and the mud was over your boots. So I left my boots there that day and said, these aren't coming home. I'm not playing anymore. So it was a bit of fun. I enjoyed myself. Dale Tapping was my coach there at the VFL, and it was all about trying to find perspective in footy again and just enjoy myself. And I had some really good conversations that year with Bucks about what I wanted to do with footy going forward, and where I wanted to find that love and that spark again for football.
How open were you with the club and with Bucks about your mental health stuff, or was it just anxiety? I mean, was it sort of diagnosed by that stage, or was it just this thing nagging away in the background?
Yeah, completely honest, I didn't know what was going on, and that's probably reared its head when I was at the Dogs. So I didn't know about this anxiety. I wasn't really into all these things, and I'm pretty naive as a late 20s male, meant to be this assertive, aggressive person on a footy field. That wasn't me away from the football club. I'm pretty lighthearted, I'm pretty emotional, and I love my friends and family, and that wasn't the person I was meant to be on the field. So understanding that now, I've spent a lot of time developing kids now that I work with and improving this space to make sure that they've got the tools and the requirements to go forward in their own career.
Was that the hardest thing to reconcile all through your career, that your on-field persona, your strength, your mental toughness was, off the field, you're such a quiet, happy, good-natured sort of person as well?
Yeah, it definitely was. And that's the thing, and through when I was playing good footy, you weren't thinking about other people's opinions, but deep down and looking back, I was in different ways that I was like, all right, it's a Friday, I better do what everyone wants me to do, and let's try to tune in, watch a bit of footy. I wasn't the biggest educator of footy. I didn't want to sit down and watch games. I liked watching it the way I watched it. I watch games differently to most. I look at individual players, then I learn the whole team. So looking back at it now, I think I tried what was best for me and tried to please other people, but it definitely weighed me down towards the back end of my career.
And you talked about that role within the team. You're very much an instinct player. The game had sort of transitioned to a real structural sort of game in that sense. Did that impact on you as well, do you think?
A little bit. I guess the way I played the game, it did. Under Mick, he was that long boundary line, kick it long, kick it to me. Bucks played that same thing. Through probably 14, 15, 16, the game changed a lot of that 3 years. And I guess now it's gone back to what it used to be, a bit more of a territory, a bit more contested. And I guess now working in that space and back in footy, I'd love to be back out there playing footy too.
So you dropped 3 times in 2016. Tony Shaw's talking about, they got to trade this bloke. At what stage do you get to when you think maybe Collingwood's not for me?
It was probably around the middle of the year that it wasn't that Collingwood wasn't for me. It was probably like, where does footy sit for me? Is footy still my priority? Do I still have that spark and that love? And that's what I'd probably lost and I hadn't realised. So probably the middle of the year, I realised that I was really finding it hard to get that spark back and that competitiveness. I had some good conversations with Bucks and Ed about what 27 would look forward would be for me. And both reassured me that if I stayed here, and obviously I was contracted and I was a required player, that I'd be playing that 10 to 12 games, 15 games of AFL footy, depending on how my form was going. And to me at that stage, it was like, I don't know if that's exactly what I want to do. I don't know if I want to stay in footy. I met with a few coaches that year from other clubs to have a chat about their football club, their program, the way they go about things, and I guess what suited me best. And Bevo was obviously one of them. I spoke to him through, I guess, September. Completely honest, I didn't want to go to the premiers from the year before, but obviously it worked out that way. I really wanted to go to a club that was a bit more low profile. I could go there and just play footy, hang out with the boys, and not be in the spotlight of an AFL club. Well, I ended up at the Premiers of 2016. not exactly what I wanted, but that was what happened. And I loved my time at the Dogs. I really did. But I had my first proper injury in 2017, and that was my 250th game on Good Friday. I split my intercostal, my ribs pretty much in half. Zeeble got me a beauty. And that was my first injury of my whole career. And in that time, I realised that footy wasn't for me anymore. I didn't enjoy the competitiveness. I loved the fun of footy clubs, but I just didn't enjoy the competition anymore. And the next 6 to 8 weeks were probably the most enjoyable of my life. I got to train. I got to spend time at home with my wife, as well as I could be around a footy club. And for me, that was where I realised that the anxiety for me and that mental health issue was purely that weekend match day for me. And I couldn't get my head around it and couldn't resolve it while I was playing footy.
Just going back to the coaches you met, Richmond were interested. Did you sit down with Damien Hardwick? I know they were having a terrible season in 2016. Who else did you meet?
Yeah, caught up with Damien a couple of times, and a couple of good conversations over the phone of where they were going as a footy club, what they were doing. They would have been full on. Going to Richmond, they were in the premiership, so they would have been great as well. And also, I met with a couple other Melbourne-based clubs. And it was conversations and coaches that I've had previously as assistant coaches, so I had relationships with them. And at those clubs as well that I looked at moving to, they had just moved on senior players, very experienced senior players, and I was like, I don't want to jump straight into their shadows because I'm pretty much doing that from kind of removing myself. I want to start fresh. I don't want to be taking over a senior experienced player that I actually love and honoured my whole career.
You don't want to be the next Nick Riewoldt down at St Kilda or anything like that?
No, St Kilda wasn't mine, don't worry about that.
So you get to the Western Bulldogs there. Just give us an indication of the build-up to your first game against Collingwood. I mean, it's just amazing how these things happen and that first goal.
Yeah, let's be honest. My whole career, I've never played Western Bulldogs round one when I played at the Pies. I moved there and all of a sudden this is the round one game. So someone at AFL headquarters thought it'd be a bit of fun and could pull a crowd. Well, it did. I wasn't anxious at all, actually, to play against Collingwood. I'd obviously played against these guys so many times at training. Reedy was pretty much my sparring partner when it comes to practice matches. I played on him all the time. I knew how he moves, how he reads the game. So playing on him as an actual proper competitive opposition, it was definitely interesting. But at the same time, I knew how to utilise that to my advantage, as he did also. But yeah, I had a few cheeky conversations with a couple of boys on the field. It was a bit of a bittersweet moment to kick the goal, obviously, from long range. And I guess pre-kicking the goal, the Collingwood cheer squad getting up, booing me. All of a sudden it goes through, they sit down, dog supporters jump up. What a reversal that was compared to what I'm used to for so many years. I used to be the black and white army cheering me on. Well, they were booing me straight away.
It was a double cobra there, I think, Ralphie, wasn't there? A double cobra.
Certainly was.
You don't miss a double cobra opportunity.
Hey, so you left the Collingwood Footy Club and you basically voided the last year of a contract. I think it was something like $350,000 or $400,000. I don't know if there were clauses built in there, but you talked earlier about it being a business to you. I mean, how tough was that to basically give up money?
It wasn't tough. It was more about that, try to find that spark and that love for footy. Because obviously I love footy. I've grown up with it. It's been something I've done my whole life. And I understood it as a business, but at the same time, you're back in your career, it's your twilight. You want to have fun. You want to find that spark that you want to go to work and enjoy yourself. And that's what footy was. But at the same time, I only had 1 year of a contract at the Pies. Dogs gave me 2. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't for much. But at the same time, I wanted to go to have fun. I wanted to love footy once again. And it just worked out that that's the way it was. Not many people retire at the age of 30 from professional sport, but I did.
And it cost you a lot of money, Travis, didn't it, in a sense? I don't know whether you want to talk figures, but the decision to go to the Dogs and be on about $200,000 a year is very different to what you're on at the Pies.
Oh, definitely. Like financially, it was a bit of a hit your back pocket, but at that back end of the career, it's not about money. It's about actually getting that fulfillment. You want to get enjoyment, but also you want to get success. And did I move from the Dogs for success? No, I didn't. But at the same time, I thought their list was young enough with some real mature heads that they could have a really good like 2017, and this is before they even won the premiership in 2016. So you got some really exciting players I thought they had there going into 17. Some mature heads there as well to lead them, and obviously they really got that back in at 16 together, and it showed that their talent that they had on and off the field really had success.
So midway through that year, you come back into the football club after breaking your ribs, or as you say, injuring your ribs, and you had your first, I suppose you could almost call it a meltdown in regards to your mental health. Can you take us through that day?
Yeah, it was. I probably rushed myself to get back to play AFL footy because I was like, I need to get out there. I want to play. Letting this club down. The Dogs have put time and effort on me to be invested. And I rushed myself back. I was so sore every day trying to move. Played a couple of games, and it was a Wednesday. It was our main training session. Trained fine, like every other day. I got back into the change rooms, and literally no one was in there. A couple of guys getting ready, and I just broke down crying. Didn't know why. Didn't know what was going on. And then also my head went to, shit, I'm going to play footy in 3 days. What am I doing? What's happening? What's the next 3 days going to look like? And I was like, this is not normal. This is not great. Like, I should be enjoying myself here. Made a couple of phone calls, spoke to my manager, spoke to my wife, and they at the same time said, what's important? What do you want to do? And I couldn't give anyone an answer. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was happening with footy, with myself. 48 hours passed. I still didn't know. It was just confusing. So, yeah, I met with a few people outside the footy club. And I guess that was kind of where, yeah, they don't diagnose you, but they kind of say you got a mental health issue here. And it was, looking at it was all anxiety-based. It was that pressures of performing every week to the standards that I had, but also to the football club, the general public, the media, that they had standards on me as well. And I wasn't the player that I was 4 or 5 years ago. I was different, but at the same time, I still thought I had the traits to play AFL footy. But I just didn't have the mental strength anymore to do it.
Were you ashamed? Were you confused? Were you panicked when that first sort of wave of tears hit you? Because I mean, I assume you'd clearly had anxiety before, but not this almost breakdown.
Yeah, it was interesting because I just didn't know which way was up. I really didn't know. The drive home from Whitnover to home was probably the longest 45 hours of my life. So many things going through your head. And literally all I wanted to do was just get home and remove myself from football. But at the same time, I knew that footy was such an important thing to me. But the game just chewed me up and spat me out so quick. After having a period of time away from playing, when I did injure myself, it was that realisation that this wasn't the number one important thing in my life anymore, even though I felt I owed so much to the supporters of the game, not necessarily the clubs, but of the game, to perform and be out there every week.
As painful as it was, Travis, was it such an important moment of your life in a way you got to realise what was going on in your mind in that sense?
I definitely, and I guess now I'm able to use that moment of my career and life to shape where I want to go and what I want to do now. And it did take time because when I finished footy, I didn't want to stay in football. I thought, gee, this game's so toxic. I don't want to be involved. I still want to improve and I want to grow as a person, but how do I do that? And then that kind of led me on to the next path of what I'm doing now. And Luke Power took me over to New Zealand with the under-18 academy team, and that's where I found that, you know what, the game is so good, it's so raw and so emotional that I can give back in a different way that I never thought I could, and that's in that development space of that next generation kids and superstars that I reach out to all the time now. So
you took a few weeks off with a mental health break, and then you came back into the game, and you finished out the year.
Yeah, it was an interesting end to the year. Like, obviously, I got back, played a few games. I think I got dropped or missed a few games back in that year as well. But it wasn't off performance. It was purely that I just couldn't get that spark and that competitiveness in there. My numbers were still the same as what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years or whatever, if we look at stats. But it was that I'd almost float behind a contest instead of jumping in front of a contest. And I knew that was that anxiety that I had, that I lost that spark, that competitiveness. So I guess, yeah, when the end of that year came, I didn't play the last, I think, 1 or 2 games of the year. Purely, I had some thumb issues that were aching. And then Bevo said, how about it, mate? I don't think we're going to make finals. Rest the fingers up. And that'd be it. And that was kind of it for the year for me.
Travis, you were sledged in a game after saying that you were, experiencing some mental health issues. What can you tell us about that moment and how you felt when you copped that out on the field?
Yeah, it was. I was playing in VFL for the Dogs. I think it was my first game back from having a bit of a layoff, and I was at down Sandringham playing there. And one of the players, he turned around with a remark or a sledge that I haven't repeated. I didn't even make an official complaint because I thought it was disgusting. At the same time, he was a young player. I didn't want him to be tarred with this reputation or this sledge for the rest of his career. But yeah, definitely it resonated with me to the point where I almost walked off the field. I alerted the umpires straight away about it, alerted coaches. Things were done, but not enough in my eyes. I'm still waiting for a call to apologise. And that's how disgusting it is. You can't get an apology when you say remarks like that. And I guess that was more the moment that I was like, this is bullshit. What am I putting the stress of myself through this game of football when some 20-year-old kid can turn around and say what he wants to say and he's not held accountable? I didn't want him to get suspended. I didn't want him to miss games of footy. But education to me is important, and that didn't happen. I know an official from the football club did reach out purely because I had a relationship with them, but it wasn't enough for me. And I wouldn't say that the Dogs brushed it under the carpet, not at all. They did everything they could to help me and support me, which is great. But I guess that club that the player was involved with just didn't do enough in my eyes.
So it was worse than just, you're a head case or you're fucked in the head or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. When remarks come out about mental health, repeated a couple of times. First time you say something, order it for duck back. That's right, competitive game. Second, third time, enough's enough. And it almost pushed me over the line. I almost stopped the game, went over and grabbed him. Like, that was the point where I was at. I was pretty lucky that the halftime siren went because obviously remove yourself from the situation to the rooms. The umpire came up to me because I told him, do something about it or I'll do it myself as the second half starts. I wasn't afraid to get suspended back in my career. It's all right. A weekend off's not a bad thing. But, yeah, and that's what happened. And it definitely crossed my mind after that game, do I even want to play again? Do I want to step back out on the field and put yourself in that situation? Or if someone does do it again, what am I going to do? Am I actually going to snap? And that's not normally in my character. Yes, in my career I got reported a couple of times for silly incidents, but nothing that was over the top or brutal. But this would have pushed me, I reckon, to that stage.
You think we've got better? I know this is a young kid playing VFL, but even 4 years on, it seems like there's a better understanding of that kind of stuff now.
Oh, definitely. He's moved on from the club now. He's playing at another AFL club. I know he's got a fantastic coach in front of him now, so fingers crossed there's education and development happening at all AFL clubs. Being a part of the development NGA space now at the Collingwood Footy Club, I've seen firsthand how important it is now for these younger kids coming through. And I'm not just talking about draftable players. It's starting at the age of 15, 16 through these NAB League competitions, which is great. So there definitely is the space. We've got some fantastic advocates and leaders in AFL football promoting it. And Wayne Sposs with his Pucker Up, I really love getting behind what he's doing. And there's some other organisations that are doing fantastic things in this great space.
So at the end of the career, you still had another year in your contract. I actually looked back at it. I think I broke the story. It was one of the very few where basically
he's pumping himself up here,
you were considering your future. This must have been good. I couldn't ever remember it.
I think it was a bit of news to my eye. Bit of news to me as well at the same time. I read the article, then I got a phone call, and I was like, gee, this is not good. What do you want to do in 2018, Trav? And I was like, might have to go with this story right now.
So where were we at? Had you been told at that stage? You obviously had some discussions with the list management guys, and Jason McCartney would have been one of them, and obviously Bevo. What had they said to you? Because it was late October by that stage.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the last day before list lodgement, to be completely honest. Exit meetings at the end of the footy season, we're all good. Spoke with Bevo and the powers to be there. They were happy with my year, giving me my off-season program. Here it is going into 2018. I'd already been back into training. I started reading a couple of these articles that have been floating through, and I was like, gee, have I missed something? Did I miss a point of my exit meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago? And then, my phone rang, and that was obviously Jason. Said, mate, what do you want to do? We're in a position, we're going to go youth next year. There's an opportunity we can pick up Josh Shackey. What do you want to do next year? And that was kind of a moment I was like, well, do I want another year like this? Do I want to run around the VFL? Do I want to finish that way? What do I want to do? And had a few conversations with my wife, my family, and obviously my manager, Robbie Taraggio, and made the conclusion that, you know what, I've had a good run in footy. Let's move aside. Let's let the club pick up a young player and develop him and put time into him. So, it wasn't what I was expecting when I left the Pies at the end of 2016 for 12 months at another club. But I'm not disappointed that it happened. I tried to re-spark my AFL career, find that love for footy. It didn't happen. I thoroughly enjoyed the time at the Dogs, made some great friends, relationships with players and staff there. But at the same time, it wasn't what I was expecting one day before this lodgement, that's for sure.
So it was a sacking that you were actually quite comfortable with in the end, Trav.
Yeah, not many people can say that. But I think it was kind of like the question that was raised was enough for me to go, I don't really want to do this for another 12 months of going through all the crap, or get to March, April and say, you know what, guys, I'm out. And then they've missed the opportunity to pick up a young footballer of the calibre of Shackey. So I definitely look at him now and watch his progress and development because realistically, he replaced me, and all the best to him.
So you did a retirement press conference. I think it was outside the Nike factory in Richmond there. I assume you filled up all your bags with the merchandise, and you did a really magnanimous presser. How relieved did you feel? I've retired. What did you think about it at that stage?
It was definitely a weight off my shoulders. I was always heading into Nike to get a few bits and pieces, and I got a call. It's like, this is going to break, so you either say something and have a bit of a press conference, or just let everyone else do it. And I said, well, I'm in town, so if anyone wants to meet me, come meet me here. I'm going to get some new gear. What I had a pre-season to prepare for, obviously not. But as soon as I kind of spoke to everyone about it and said, you know what, footy's done, it definitely was a bit of a weight off my shoulder. I instantly felt happy, which is not saying I hadn't for a long time, but it was a different form of happiness where I could wake up and go, I don't have to stress about doing something tomorrow, going for a run, or any of that, which I do love, but it was that anxiety that I had about almost getting ready for another pre-season before even pre-season started.
Yeah. So did you get a financial settlement with that final year of your contract, or did you just walk away with that one?
No, I was happy to walk away. I was happy to move on from footy and welcome that next phase of my life. And moving to the Dogs was never a financial thing. Footy was good to me my whole career. Footy, it was never about money. Yes, there was talks the whole way through my career about different contracts moving and I won't budge on this number. It was never the case like that. But at the same time you got a short career within footy, so make the most of it, make hay while the sun shines and move on. And I guess that's what it was. I was happy to move on from footy. Footy had done good as a player. And now I'm on the other side, and I can definitely see the game in a different light.
You went through your own battles in that 2017 season. Tom Boyd did as well. What sort of dealings did you have with Tom through that period?
Yeah, Boyd, I guess he's a different kettle of fish as well. He was a very high draftee with a lot of expectations from a young age, and then moves from a new club to the Western Bulldogs on, at that time, one of the biggest contracts we'd seen in footy. So for a young guy that hadn't proved himself yet to have a big burden on his back like that was huge, and that's what weighed Boyd down. And we had some really good conversations, and he's a fantastic fella, very smart guy, and I guess for him footy wasn't always the number one priority for him as well, and he knew that. He's a smart guy, he had other things going on. So it was interesting to see, even when he walked away from football last year, I think it was last year, the year before, the way he did it. And speaking to him since, he's in such a good place. He's happy. He's enjoying himself. He's engaged. He's in a really good space. So for him to walk away from footy for what he had sitting on the table shows the type of person that he is to me.
And Travis, how tough was it that year at the Dogs in a sense where things were going wrong for the club? What do you put that down to in their premiership defence?
I think it's just footy. I've been involved in footy clubs when things aren't going to plan on field, but mayhem's going off and all of a sudden you're playing really well on the field. So I've seen both sides of it. players there were no different to what I've seen at clubs before or heard from other football clubs. So they were a young bunch of kids that got success. They had a really good core group above them with Boyd, Murphy, Morris above, and did they set a good example for these kids. I would have loved to have been a part of that football club for a lot of my career, because those three men at the top of that club, and not saying that I didn't have it at the Pies, were fantastic, but they did it in a different way. Boydie was really driven. Morris was an ultimate profession. And then you got Murph, who is the people's man. We love him. So they had three very unusual characters that did an amazing job.
Just triggers something from that Nike press conference. I think you might have said that Matthew Boyd's the best person you've met in football, or has helped you the most of anyone in football. What happened that last year? You must have had a lot of conversations with him about that as a former captain.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I guess now I work alongside him at the Pies. He's an assistant coach there, and we still have a great relationship. But that year it was probably for Boydie what it was for me. He was kind of like in and out of the seniors, played a lot in the VFL. He never turned his tail up, never sooked. And I guess that was the attitude that I think AFL footballers need to have, because I've seen too many people get dropped, crack the shits, and out they go. He had the best attitude. He just wanted to play footy. He genuinely loves playing games of football. So change room locker conversations with him were grouse. He had such a good perspective on life, really young family. So to me, I think he had perspective on life, and I guess that's what I was after, and that's what made it happy for me or content for me to move on the way I did.
Brendan Goddard kicks maybe the biggest goal in a grand final, takes a skyscraper mark. There's 3.5 minutes to go. St Kilda are going to win the grand final. What happened after that?
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? I was sitting in the other room and watched that mark and Jesus, that's a fair grab. Completely honest, I have not watched either of the grand finals from 2010. People always ask me what happened. I think I kicked the goal that Drew would have put us up by a point.
Glenn, I remember. Glenn's watched them all for you.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Sitting where I am now, I look after, I can see my premiership medallion in a cupboard. The only thing that I have in my house, footy related. But the drawn grand final and the win are just a blur to me, really. They completely are. They were a whirlwind of emotions, both of them. To say you're a part of a drawn grand final is pretty crazy. Nobody knew what to do, how to go about the process for the next one, if it was going to be straight away, a week's time. Nobody knew. So to me, it was just a blur, and just whatever someone told me I was doing, and that was hopefully the right way. And I think we did it the right way.
So, Mackie, you might as well commentate for us, and Damien, our producer, might even find the grand final, which integrate. What was it like?
Well, we know what was it like. It was fantastic, of course.
So, Chris Dawes ferries the ball out.
So it starts with Nick Maxwell. You'd remember Trav down the field, takes an amazing mark, and then gets the ball forward. Dawsey gives the ball to you, and you just snap a goal straight away.
Well, normally I kick goals better on the snap because I didn't even think about it. So that was safe as houses.
Was there any nerves there? Tell us about. I mean, there was obviously so much, as you said, talk about your goal kicking at the time.
There would have been nerves because the simple fact that you're down in the grand final, you want to win. So anytime the ball's in your hands, there's expectations to execute that skill the right way. Obviously, within 50, it's kick a goal. So to grab it and turn, it just happens. You don't even have to think about where your hands are going, where the ball's going. It's just kick it, hope it goes through the big sticks, and that's what it did. But I remember, like, it was the crowd on that day. Like, it's amazing. The Collingwood cheer squad and Collingwood supporters are like none other. And I can generally say that because I've been on the other side of the fence now and copped it. But it's just exciting. And grand finals are good, but Anzac Days are better. No offence. Anzac Day are
better than the grand final. Because of
obviously the importance of what the day is.
Yeah, sure.
But it's supporters. That's 100,000 people of pure supporters for both sides. Grand finals corporate. A lot of people there just the day. The noise, the crowd, the surrealness of what that is just unbelievable.
Did you feel that the club had blown it though when St Kilda are going forward constantly? It just felt like there was that momentum, even in the dying seconds, and the bounce of the ball with Stephen Milne.
Yes and no. As a player, you don't, because you don't really think. It's just like get the footy back and just try to penetrate as much as you can and hold possession, hopefully score. You're not really thinking the tactics too much, especially when it's a scrappy game like that. It wasn't a clean game. It wasn't open, free-flowing. So to say that I was seeking tactics, no, it was just get the footy, hopefully lock it in our forward 50 and go from there.
Gavin Krasiska talked about his mental battles, and he didn't even touch the Premiership Cup, and he clearly is a Premiership player, but he's had so much stuff that's gone on since then. How often would you think to yourself, I'm a Premiership player?
In my day-to-day life, not much at all. When I live 45 minutes from the city in the Yarra Valley, I live on land, maintenance, getting stuff done here. You don't think about past life and kicking a footy around. It's just get things done. But yeah, when you're back in the footy world, and I guess back in the city in that bubble of what footy is, a few people do remind you about your career, but you don't think about the individual ones. You think about the team. And obviously, we're 10 years on from our 2010 grand final. Time does fly. So this year, of most, I've probably thought about it more often than not. And I guess in the circumstances we're sitting in, it's going to be a shame that I'm not going to be able to catch up with our teammates and celebrate the success we had as a group, because it wasn't necessarily that 21 other players on the day. We had so many other players involved. Obviously, Leon Davis got dropped for the replay. Tyson Goldsack came in. He's a part of it as much as anyone. And I guess we had players of Preston Giacomo that stepped out that year, players that previously that really set our club up leading up into that 2010 season, of players of Nathan Buckley, Scotty Burns, Tarkin Lockyer, Josh Ray, these guys that had moved on in years previously that had set the foundations for that success for that year.
What about the coach, Mick Malthouse? He was probably at his best that night at the Premiership, the grand final dinner, when he talked about climbing Mount Humphreys and we're only half-time in a grand final. How important was that for the group to getting you over the line the next week?
Yeah, I guess that's the difference, that we went on, that we had that function already set up after the game no matter what. So we went, got around our supporters, did the right thing, embraced them after they've supported us for so much. And then it was business as usual the next morning. Recovery, let's get ready, let's go about it. Do the same thing again as what we've just done and play a game of footy on the Saturday to come. So I think we did that really well, or the best we could, even though it was such a hectic 48 hours after that game. Players rescheduling holidays, moving things around, the logistics of the AFL to set up another game, get more entertainment, all these little things we don't think about had to be done.
You were heading off to Bali or somewhere? You already tripped a lot, fantastic? Or
Yeah, I was off to Bali, I think on the Monday or Tuesday, so I had to change that. It was a bit of a headache, but worthwhile in the end.
How good was the next week, given that you could probably celebrate through the early parts of that game, and that game was won pretty early?
Yeah, it was. It made you enjoy the game a little bit more than what probably the week before. But at the same time, yeah, if the drawn game had gone another minute or two, it's a different story. I think St Kilda would get up and win. Because the siren goes when it does, we get to recoup, recover, come again. You're durable. You've had a long year. What's one more game? We really saw it as that. Let's just go all out, give everything we could early. And if that's the case, you get to reap the rewards in the back end of the game. And I guess we're on the opposite end of that in 2011. We had a fantastic first half, and then all of a sudden Geelong came out and slapped us. And I remember Scarlett running past me, singing a song and having a bit of a laugh in that second half. So 12 months ago, we were doing exactly the same thing.
How much of the pain of that 2011 grand final still sits with you, Trev? I think you were nearly 3 goals up in the second quarter at one stage.
That probably shits me more than anything, that game. Not because it's the grand final, just because we did lose it on our own terms. Pods went down with an injury late in the second. Reedy went over to Hawkins, and I think Tommy Hawkins had the best game of his career to date that day. And don't get me wrong, we still give Reedy shit about the performance he had that day. But yeah, it is what it is. Some players shine in big games. Tommy Hawkins did it. He played fantastic. And I guess he single-handedly won the game off his own boot.
So what does Reedy say about it? Because you guys are still good mates and catch up for dinner. Because Scotty Waters on this podcast has said, they should have pulled the trigger and, changed that. Chris Tarrant should have gone across to him. Mick Malthouse, I think, said it was one of his great regrets there. And he knew, of course, that he was banged up. But, when you're not hanging it on him, what's the truth from Reedy? Yeah,
I guess he might see the same thing. But I think we go back to tickets, like what he got today. He'd been such a good player in that same position, so you stick with him. You don't always just chuck the baby out with the bathwater. So let's stick with it, stick what you got. And sometimes the game is so brutal, it just beats you up and spits you out. So, and I think that's what happened that day. We can look back out on it and say, yeah, Taz should have gone across to him or maybe Maxi or whatever. But it is what it is. We can't change too much about it. And Yeah, filthy. That one got away from us. We should have been 2 in a row, that's for sure.
You look at The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan doco, and you look at Phil Jackson. He literally had one last season to try and win. At that stage, it was their 6th pennant. Was it disjointed, the fact that Mick Malthouse only had a final year, or as Eddie Maguire would say, was it a pressure? We have to get everything right to make sure that we try and win a grand final in Mick's last season.
I was one that probably didn't buy into it. I didn't care less who was coaching me. I wanted to play footy. Mick, to me, was almost a father figure. He had me from such a young age. He played, obviously, with my father for many years at Richmond. To me, he never spoke tactics. He always talked to me about the way we could get the best out of myself, the team. Bucks, obviously, was a bit more X's and O's, but saw the game in a different way also. So I had the respect for both men, and still do. And I love the way both of them went about it. Mick loved the history of the game. He loved the motivation to get you up for the big games. Bucks was the strategic type of guy. If you couldn't get yourself up for the game of footy, what's wrong? That type of stuff. But they both had their strengths, both had their weaknesses also. And both also had adversity in their whole career as well as coaches. So they've done an amazing job so far. Obviously, Bucks is still going in that role. But I look back and I wouldn't blame it on that one move that Taz should have flipped over and we lost the game. I'm sure there was many moments throughout it that we cost ourselves. Maybe at halftime I had my hands on the Norm Smith. That's about it.
I like that. People talk about bickering, external people talk about bickering at the club that year cost Collingwood a flag. Is that bullshit, do you think?
I believe so. I didn't hear it. When I actually heard all this kind of come out, I was like, gee, did I be heading the sand for 12 months? I missed all of it. And I would say I'm a pretty, in touch with the group type of person. I chat to all people, not just the players, boot starter to administration. I'm across all of it. And I missed it. So I'm not too sure if it is true or not. I think it's bullshit. I think it was purely beat up because that's the situation. And because Mick was moving out and that transition was happening, I believe it didn't have any impact on our 2011 season. I'm sure there's people that say it did, but as a player who was pretty pinnacle in that group, I don't believe it did. No.
How emotional was Mick in that last week? We saw in the coach's box the week before, after you helped obviously kick that goal late in the game, as well as Bally to put Collingwood into a grand final. The tears on Mick's face and how physically drained he was and emotionally. Did you see that through the week that this is his last game for Collingwood?
That's the Mick I knew though. So the person we saw on TV and probably pushing a lot of you guys as the media with some of these questions.
Never.
Wasn't the Mick that I knew. I knew him as a softie. I always asked him about his family, how his grandkids are, how his own kids were going. So that was the Mick I knew. So it wasn't any different to me. And I guess that I could feel so real with him because that was the conversations we had. And exactly the same with Bucks, that everyone looks at Bucks and everyone's pretty scared of him. Well, to me, we used to have a coffee and have a laugh and a giggle. The amount of times I used to sit in his room and almost break down because that's the relationship I had with him. I could be real with both those men, even though from the external side, they're very powerful men, very intimidating. But to me, that wasn't who I saw him as. I saw him totally different men. I see him as the Nathan Buckley we see now as 2020. That's the guy I saw in 2004 when I got drafted, realistically. So I've never really not seen that side of Bucks or Mick.
So the end of 2011, of course, that Mick is going to move on. What were his words to you in the rooms post-match when, of course, he talked about, my boys and how I can't continue on at this footy club?
Yeah, it was like, obviously I won't quote him because I'll get them all mixed up. But yeah, he was very emotional because he had put this group together and we were a pretty motley crew. We're a mismatch of blokes in there. But at the same time, he knew every one of the boys in that group individually and how to get the best out of them. So I do feel that he felt responsible for all of us, good way or bad. But that was Mick. Mick wanted the best for us as players, but also as a footy club. We used to give Mick grief for being tight and going on these trips to Arizona and taking trips, presents back and getting refunds. Like we had that relationship.
So you can confirm that one?
Yeah, it's very true. Don't remember that.
Guy McKenna had to go, 100 kilometres out of the way to return something from the previous year that might have been a $20 singlet or something.
Yeah, I think it was a $2 discount or something. But that was the relationship we had with Bucks. With Mick, and we had a bit of fun with it. We encouraged him to be him as much as he encouraged us to be us. So people agree or disagree with like the way we did about it, but it worked for that playing group, and it still worked going forward. But it's just times changed. The landscape of football's changed over the last 10 years. Like social media's gone through. Everyone's a reporter now. Everyone's got a phone. You can't say boo without getting in trouble.
How much did social media impact on you, Travis, throughout your career? It probably was only in its infancy when you started.
Yeah, it definitely impacted. Like, I used to finish a game of footy and you'd pick up your phone and read Twitter and you'd take on the comments that a 10-year-old kid's got to say to you, then instead of the person standing in front of you being your coach. And that's what happens now. Like, players literally pick up their phone, check their Supercoach scores, see how many ranking points they've got, how they went, because that's the way best justify their performance. For having 30 touches where you might only have 50 metres gained and they're all junk touches, but you've still amazing points because that's what Supercoach says. Realistically, you had a shit game and you're only doing what these numbers say. Like, let's be honest, you can have 10 kicks and kick 5 goals and you've had the best game of your life. You can have 30 touches and get no metres gained, and it's a stinker. So in my eyes, that's what was happening. I was trying to get justification for my game from social media, from literally 10, 12-year-old kids that are sitting behind a computer screen.
What was the worst thing you read about yourself in that situation? Is there one thing that you still sort of can't get out of your head all these years later?
There was numerous things. Sometimes you literally chuckled and laughed and said, amazing, well done to come up with that. Probably don't think it's rated or acceptable to put in words to your name online, but hey, all the best to you. But yeah, some were disgusting. Some really... You can question me as a footballer, no problems. Don't question me as a person, especially if you don't know me. And that was the issue. People were judging me as an individual and as a human being, then as a footballer. Like, judge me till the cows come home about my football skills and ability. Don't judge me as a human being till you actually walk. I know, literally 2 steps in my shoes is enough for some people sometimes.
What's your advice to footballers now in regard to social media?
It's definitely not get off it, not at all. I think it is part of the game, part of the industry. You need it. But the way you go about using it, you don't have to share everything you do anymore, or you don't have to tell everyone what you're having for brekkie every day. Pick and choose the time you want to use it and what you want to share with the general public and also your supporter base, because it is important to engage, and especially times like this, I think it's very important to communicate, reach out to other people that aren't regulars that you talk to. But at the same time, keep it moderate and understand that the way you're feeling, if it's shiny and having a great day, someone's not always feeling that way. So someone might not react the way you expect them to react. But also the other way, if you're on a tough day and someone's having a great day, don't have to bring them down and jump on their back and give them grief. So it's an unusual one that we're all dealing with, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better still. I truly do believe we will push the line with social media, and someone may self-harm before we do actually get some really good results out of this.
So when I look at things like Twitter and less so Instagram and think, how is it that people can say this without them being identified? And clearly people are still going to say horrific things, but you might be able to track them down. I mean, is that something, being verified and being able to sort of hold these people accountable? Because as you say, that's so scary to think that someone might commit suicide through, let's face it, keyboard warriors.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we need to hold everyone accountable. And you don't have to be a public profile or an athlete to be accountable. Anyone that logs onto these accounts or software and creates one, you need to be verified. So if I need to check who you are, I can literally, I personally don't need to find out where you live, but if someone has to reach out to actually get that connection, you can be traced back to where you need to be. You don't need to just log on, create a Hotmail account and make a fake account. It's just too easy these days. I think we need more accountability for it, but let's be honest, I'm not the smartest fellow to put this together. Someone else, I'm sure, is thinking about what to do. But it's only my opinion, and I do believe that it will get worse before it gets better. And I hope it doesn't come to that, but I do believe it will happen sooner than later.
Literally, how many minutes after a game would you be checking your phone? What would the process be?
You walk into the room, sing the song if you've won, sit on the ground for a couple of minutes if you lost, and then you walk to your locker, you grab your phone. It could be a matter of 10 minutes after a game of footy. You haven't even gone to the coach's room, haven't spoken to your assistant coach, haven't seen your wife, your girlfriend, your family. You're grabbing your phone. And that was not just me. That was 21 other players in the dressing room doing the exact same thing. Back into my career, you weren't allowed your phones. The boys still had their phones. Don't worry about that. It was still there. It was still very important to check Supercoach and Twitter and social media to see what else is happening.
And that might sound insane, and yet I think how many times have I checked Twitter today? I know I'm a news journo, but
about 40 times, I reckon.
Well, probably 200. Fascinating to hear you talk about it as a business. The 2012 season, and I think we understand now, as you say, both of your brothers sacked in the same year. How tough was that when you wanted I think it was a 5-year deal. Freo had offered you $5 million over 5 years, and you had to go through most of that year with that hanging over your head.
Yeah, it was interesting. To me, I was never going. And I just wanted to play footy. But at the same time, I wasn't going to hold Collingwood over the hot coals and say, this is what I've been offered, give me it. It was a matter of let's work something out that works for you, works for me. And that's what it came down to. Realistically, as my 5th year was a trigger, there was a lot of clauses in there. And every year previous to that, I had to perform for the football club. And I do believe triggers are good for the club, not necessarily good for the player, because manipulation of awards, they can come up. But it holds the player accountable to perform and actually be out there on the track. Not to go, I've got 5 years, I'm going to have 3 lean years, and the last 2 years I'm going to pull together. I think it needs to work for player and club. And that's what all I wanted when I was doing mine with the club was let's work together. What works for them, what works for me. Let's get the best out of me by putting pressure on me to perform. And if I perform well, you get the rewards on the back end. And that's exactly what happened. And so the club saw it that way, and I think they've used a little bit of that template going forward, which is good.
How tough was that year for you off the field as well? I think your house was vandalised at one stage. You had things written on your car. Quite a number of other things happened. How tough was that?
The letters that used to come through at the footy club were always interesting. There was a time where my mail didn't come to me. It went through to the Tracy, who kind of runs a lot of us, looked after a lot of the boys at the footy club. She used to get it all, and she used to dissect what was the good and the bad to send through to me. I used to have my window and my car smashed, a few things written on my windscreen. But to me, it was annoying and a pain in the ass to get that. But at the same time, I look back now and gee, how passionate people are about their footy. And if you get that when you're a player, because you're not looking at it like, what an arsehole, he smashed my window, I've got to get this fixed, what a pain in the ass. But I look at it now and gee, how passionate he was that he really wanted me to be a part of this football club. How honoured I am that he actually saw me in that light, even though, he's causing property damage to my car.
Pretty magnanimous thing to think that even today, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is. And then, because of it, I did move house. I was living in Richmond at the time. I moved to Kew, got out of there, and straight away, you put cameras in. That's what I was living in. It was a matter of protection. What do you do? As stupid as it is, that's what kind of it came down to.
So how can that not affect your footy though? And I know you still had another good year, but it wasn't as good as others.
Completely honest, can't tell you. I don't know. It was so many external noises happening. Probably it all just blended into one. And when you are playing good footy, sometimes the noise is muffled, and when you're not playing well, it's a lot clearer and you take it on board. So I really can't put an answer on why, but at the same time, it was still part of my journey. I don't regret anything I did in my whole footy career, and that's even the back end when I left. People say, do you regret leaving the Pies for that 12 months? No, I don't, because if I didn't leave, I would have regretted not leaving and to try to re-spark that love. So I'm pretty happy to sit here and say I tried everything in footy. I achieved a lot as an individual and as a team success. But at the same time, I retired at the age of 30. I was still young. There's so much life to live. I'm 33 now, and I'm still young. Isolation's been pretty interesting, as you can see. I'm growing a beard. Not normally for me. There's a few greys coming through. But at the same time, using this time as a bit of an opportunity to reach out to people I haven't spoken to in a while, connected with, and also spend some quality time with obviously family at home. You
still had 13 pretty amazing seasons. I know you retired at 30. You say no regrets. I was going to say, was the only regret of that year doing the Footy Show interview? But you would have got good money for it. It was
no regrets, mate. No, and that's the thing. I enjoyed the side things as well. I enjoyed doing the Footy Show, taking the piss. I've said some pretty silly things in footy. I think it's the smoke and shadows thing. It gets brought up all the time, but I literally don't regret anything I did in that space. And I enjoyed it. It still gets brought up. To the day I'll die, I'll have a bit of a chuckle about the things like that off field. And even to the point where people said I used to miss goals from the top of the goal square. Well, if that's what comes to your mind when you think of me, well, I'm still glad you're thinking of me. Thank you.
You almost got typecast, and I was one of your great defenders because I think we both did a couple of feature interviews and found you eloquent and considered, and really fascinating point of view. And yet, the smoke and shadow stuff, it just sort of it was attached to you.
Yeah, it was, and I still get it's the tool of the week thing sitting there. Like, I don't know, they're just fun accolades. Like, have a bit of a laugh. Don't take yourself too seriously. And I probably did take myself too seriously early on in my career. And it wasn't until the back end that I loosened up and said, you know what, this is me. If you like it, you like it. You don't, I don't really care anymore. But I'm going to continue on doing the things the way I want to do it. I'm not cut from the same stone as most footballers, that's for sure.
So you've got a premiership medallion and a tool of the week. They're the only two memorabilia items you've got in your entire house.
As I look here, yep, they're sitting next to each other. And I think there's each year at the Pies, you get a medallion to say you're part of the year, and they're sitting up there as well, those type of things. So things I hold dear to me aren't necessarily what other people do. In the shed, yeah, everything else is tucked away. All my jumpers, I've collected jumpers, boots, gloves, different memorabilia from different sports. They're all in there in storage. I'm sure one day they'll all come out.
Sorry, you go, Rob.
No, gloves. It's a nice segue.
Gloves,
Did you have an illegal glove for a while? Take us through just the things that you're involved in, Clokey.
So, there's a fair few. It was ticked off in the AFL. It was a newer model of the glove. So the reason why I wore a glove was my fingers. And most people know it. My fingers are a mess. Anything that comes out of my career is literally to do with my hands. Tendons, ligaments, popped them out all the time. So there was to help with the structure of my hands by wearing a glove without strapping most of my fingers, because let's be honest, it's a pain in the ass. But yeah, so a new glove came across. I wore it. The model before had been ticked off. That hadn't. There was players that had previously worn that exact same glove previously in weeks. I just happened to have a really good game that day against GWS. I think Phil Davis had a bit of a whinge to one of the umpires, and I was like, well, mate, go to me bag and grab one out yourself and help yourself. It wasn't as if it was just to me. Anyone was open to use it, but sometimes when you perform well, criticism comes. And
so it wasn't some super sticky model. Like, it clearly was eventually found illegal, but it just was that the AFL didn't like the look of it.
I don't think that one had come across them yet. It was exactly the same as the one I'd previously been wearing. Yes, newer gloves are a bit more sticky than ones that have worn in. If you've watched games, I used to wear the same glove because I wasn't one of superstitions, but I also liked a bit of routine. And that's just what happened on that day. Do I regret wearing it? No, not at all. It was kind of a bit of a trademark of what I did through that middle part of my career. I wore it. My fingers are hideous, still are. My thumbs are ugly. I've been on the shovel at home doing work the last few days. My hands ache at night. So thanks to footy, life after footy is not great.
Goal kicking, Trav, the love-hate relationship. What was your favourite goal of all the goals you kicked for Collingwood? And is there one that you think, geez, I should have kicked that one?
Oh, there's plenty I should have kicked. There's one in the VFL, actually, top of the goals we down in Geelong I actually missed. Someone said something to me. I said, mate, does this face look like it cares? And it was purely off the back of, I've missed this one before, or I'm going to do it again. Give me the footy again, I'll kick it again. And I think 10 minutes later in that game, I got up on the boundary and slotted it and then just laughed because that was my whole career. I missed them from some of the most easiest of places, but then kicked that goal that's impossible. And that was a love-hate with goal kicking. Was it expectation? What did other people thought? I don't know. Goal kicking was just a mystery to me.
How many different remedies did you have over the journey? I think people used to write into you as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I've got a lot of different things. I could write a book on goal kicking. I've got that many different techniques, ideas on how to go about it. Even now, when I do a bit of coaching, I pass on the knowledge I have. Some people laugh and say, why are you teaching us goal kicking? I said, well, I can teach you it because I know so many different ways to go about it. I couldn't necessarily find the right way for me, but that doesn't mean I can't help you find the right way for you. So I've got all different ideas and techniques. I spoke to some great people, not just involved in footy, about my goal kicking. Different sports and the way they went about it, their mindfulness, listen to radio, different music, all these type of things. Did it work for me? No, it didn't, but I gave everything a crack and didn't leave any stone unturned.
Was there ever a time where you had a little, 10, 12-week sweet spot where there was a technique that worked for you for a while?
Oh, definitely. There was times where whatever worked, I'd stick to as much as I could. Was it counting steps? Was it trying to say a different word at the top of your mark just so it was routine-based? Tried everything. But for a good 6-7 years there, it was the talk of the town, goal kicking Travis Cloke. It was interesting. Did I win games off my own boot? Yes. Did I lose games? Yes, I did. That's the reality of what happened. And I guess that's the expectation of being an AFL footballer, that you're almost perfect in your choosing craft. And that was me kicking goals, but I wasn't perfect. I probably perfect at other things, but just not that end result.
And Billy Brownless talked about it as the little man on his shoulder, as he was walking in. What was it for you? It was clearly was the yips, but was it all technical? Was it a little bit mental? What was the combination?
I think a bit of A, B, and C, and sometimes D. I tried to clear my mind as best as possible. I always had the mentality, no matter what happened, goal, point, or on the fall or indifferent, I wanted the ball again in my hands to kick the next one. So that was my mentality. If I stuffed it up, give it to me again, I want to have another crack. I never got to a stage where I was nervous that I didn't want to have that shot. And I think that was a bit of a positive for me and going forward in my career, that I always wanted to have the ball in my hands, almost a bit of me time. I want the responsibility to win the game for my team and my supporters.
What was your favourite goal, Trav, of all those goals you kicked for Collingwood? Was there one that stands out?
Yeah, there's obviously the one against the Pies at Dogs stands out probably most, just because it's more relevant, more recent. The ones in the grand final, that 11, those ones that I sunk from the boundary. But probably the bag of goals that I remember probably most was against Richmond on Rance. There was a funny incident from the bench, from the boundary. I was lining up, I think, on the junction, and a supporter reached over to grab my arse, and I turned around and kicked the goal and gave him a bit of a thumbs up afterwards. Little things like that, for who knows what reasons you remember, they stick in my mind a little bit more than most.
I watched the highlights of that on YouTube this morning. It went for 5 minutes. Not only did you kick, would you kick 7 on him?
Yeah.
Yeah, but getting up the ground as well and hitting blokes' laces out and hitting Daisy, laces out. It was a game, I tell you what.
Yeah, I think I was wasted as a forward, actually. I should have played it half back or a wing. I was better to kick it. I was better kick around the ground than I was on goal. Maybe I never found my niche, finding the right position.
How tough was it, as you say, that both Jason and Cameron were, dumped by the club? How are they now about Collingwood? Because they had their amazing moments, but also tough moments at Collingwood.
Yeah, I was probably at the time I was a bit annoyed. Obviously, I chose Collingwood because my brothers were there. I had the father son. I had a choice: Richmond, Collingwood. Obviously, Richmond were playing good footy. They were in about it, and when I was eligible to get drafted, but Collingwood were moving from Big Park to Holland Centre. They'd just been a part of those couple of losing premierships early on in the 2000s. So I chose, obviously, to go to Collingwood over Richmond. Realistically, I probably took Cam's spot. When I went to the footy club, Cam was probably playing the same position with a bit of ruck. I probably took it, so we were vying for the same position. So ideally, it didn't work great. But saying that, I know talking to Cam, he wouldn't change anything about his footy career. He reckons he had the most fun he's ever had playing footy when he was at Port Adelaide. He went there for 12 months, loved his time at Carlton. And Jace was different. He really probably started that loose man defence role. He used to be that third man across. Fantastic aerial mark that way. And I guess his downfall was being reported for that grand final. I guess he never really moved on or progressed from that. Mick probably held him a little bit accountable for that action as well. Was he realistically should have been reported for? I don't think so, but that's the match review panel, and that's what happened. So I think Collingwood missed out on a premiership in that year because of that incident that happened the week before.
You think he'd had such a good year, isn't it? And your dad came out in the famous Mike's Hard Lemonade T-shirt on the footy show. I don't know whether he's still got it, Trev.
Yeah, shocking dress sense, Dave. But it's funny. Whenever that footage comes up, I always have a laugh. I said, mate, why didn't you put it on? She's like, I just came from work. I was like, I don't care. I was overseas in Japan at the time on school exchange. I remember reading all about it, going, what the hell is going on back in Melbourne?
He did have a bottle shop too. So there was that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit of promotion, I guess, for the company, while you're running a bit of a side business on the other side.
You obviously have a great relationship. You obviously have a great relationship with Mick. But when he said, your brother played better in the previous grand final, having not done that, oh my God, that was the savage side of Mick.
Yeah, it was. And I guess we all sat there and said, oh, did he really say that? But yeah, and that was the way he felt, and he never shied away from sharing what he felt, Mick. But yeah, he was brutal. He was honest. But I guess that's what you respected of Mick, and he always told you where he stood. And for me, that was important because I knew where I was with him. He knew exactly where I sat, and we were open to the nth degree with our careers.
And so did Jason forgive him for that?
I definitely think it took time. Yeah, it did for sure. Jace, since he's retired, hasn't been to a lot of games of footy. That's for sure. He's moved up to Queensland now with his young family and wife. But footy for him wasn't always the number one thing. He loves his building, runs a very good construction company. So that for him was always a passion. But footy was just something he did on the side, really, for him. And yeah, it was a shame that it ended the way it did because he had a really good start to his football career.
How was your dad with that situation as well, in terms of he was obviously a teammate of Mick's? He was furious, and as we understand it at the time, has he mellowed at all in that sense since then? Or?
Oh, definitely. Like Mick and Dad, they go way back before any of us kids were even around. Obviously, their own careers together. They catch up with their Richmond days and their old groups. They're part of flags together and everything. So you put that one incident aside for sure. And you catch up. We've shared many moments together, Dad and Mick, alongside when I have as well. So it's just one of those things that happened that was said. And let's be honest, he probably was correct that it did cost the team, and he was annoyed at the way it happened. So it's interesting the way that, yeah, we're 15, 17 years on from that. We still talk about it. That's just the way it goes in footy.
It was just such a great soundbite, wasn't it?
Amazing soundbite.
So we couldn't get you.
Whenever I hear it, it still gives me chills. So I'm like, I'm so glad it's not me. But it was probably an honest one. He had a bad one the year after. He's not a forward. Jason's not a forward, and we know that. And I guess that's where they tried to play him that year. It didn't work out.
So we couldn't get you in 2017 to the Tigers. Was there ever a chance we were going to get you at the start of your career? Because, you know, obviously you were the young one. You were the best young Cloke coming through.
Definitely. It was definitely it was on the cards. I spoke with Richmond. They offered me a lot more lucrative deal, I guess, as a young kid. Obviously, first couple of years you're in set. But
what do they offer you, by the way? We love the nitty-gritty of these things.
Yeah, they offer you like a longer-term contract, 5-6 years straight off the bat. And maybe there's something, a bit of a sweetener here and there for you that's financially appealing. But
sounds like a brown paper bag, Ralphie.
Never.
It's not a paper bag. It was something else. But it was
a McDonald's franchise like Shane Crawford.
Oh.
It was enticing, but at the same time, my decision to go to Collingwood was purely both brothers were there. They'd moved from Big Park to the Holden Centre, this new amazing facility, state of the art. And the opportunity to play with both of them was my driving factor. Did I look at going there end of 16, going to 17? I think I would have loved to have gone there, but I didn't want to go to another club the same as Collingwood. Richmond, realistically, is a massive club, a huge club within the AFL. I didn't want the pressure of that. Did they want me in the end? I don't know. Don't think so. But, yeah, it would have been grouse, to finish your career at a club that once upon a time Dad played for.
Your life now, I mean, you just seem to be in such an amazing spot. So you're doing some stuff with the Pies Next Generation Academy, the development pathway. Tell us about, where you're at.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a bit of a journey since I finished. I really want to spend time in educating and upskilling myself in this space because I don't want to be a flash in the pants. I don't want to get just back into footy and think I'm an ex-footballer and I deserve this. I want to earn my place within development in footy. I think I've got a lot to give, and this is the space that I think is most important going forward, that I've been a part of it, I've lived it, I've seen the good and the bad in this. So I really want to put my spin on it, my own education in it. I've been lucky enough that Jeff Walsh has supported me in this since I finished and really pushed me to widen my horizons in this space. So I'm working with multicultural kids, Indigenous children from all over the aspect. I go to Tennant Creek, which is in Central Australia, which is part of our zone of our NGA, work with some Indigenous boys and girls up there. I love it. It's fantastic. This year I've been helping with our VFL Academy group in their development and also linking into the AFL group in a bit of craft. So working on what I do best, and that's body work, positioning, helping our taller forwards with their leading patterns up the ground and developing myself, but also these players.
Are you regaining your love for the game as well, Travis? Has this been something that's brought you back with that passion for the game that you had when you were a young fella?
Definitely. And I think that's what it is. I realise now, and I'm so confident to say it was the anxiety of game day that wrecked the game for me. I love the footy club, the training side of it. So for me to be a part of that now of a football club without the anxiety of playing a game is the best of both worlds for me. I still get the fun and the competitiveness. I still get out in training. I've been helping Lyndon Dunn this year with his knee development, strength work, been helping with his body positioning. So I'm a bit of a like for like. And it's generally, I love going to work because I get to give back to what this game did to me.
You're at the coalface. We're in a coronavirus crisis where some people are saying we might just abandon the next generation academies, and people say, well, Isaac Quainer, he's from Oakley. Give us the reason why they're so important.
Oh, and I think we can easily go to these bigger names of like Isaac, and he would have got drafted anyway. But let's look the other way. R2, we're picked up. He wouldn't have got picked up if it wasn't for an NGA program. So I think they're super important. And I guess these children now, and I will say children, not boys or young girls, they're children. They're so young when they're coming into AFL clubs. They're not educated. They're not ready to be a part of this AFL club yet. There's definitely fantastic programs in place, led by Tarkin Lockie at the moment, their academy coach with their under-18s. But we need to educate them that when they do step foot into the AFL system, they're ready to go. AFL is big business. They don't want kids. They want young men and young women straight away. So we, as development coaches, need to educate them at a younger age, but also at the same time, show them that this isn't just football. You've got to have a well-rounded lifestyle. You still need to be performing at school. You need to have some good relationships with your friends and family away from it, and making sure that you're not just putting all your eggs in the basket and hoping you're going to be an AFL footballer. Travis,
your dad has guided you all the way through your career in a lot of ways. What did you say to him when you said, Dad, I'm going to do Dancing with the Stars? Yeah, I think he was pretty good at the Richmond Social Club all those years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, if you ask, Dad had such an impact on my AFL career. He never once told me how to play the game of footy. He never once told me what to do. It was always, he's my father in that space. And I know that might sound really weird because he did help out with my management stuff and help with that type of space, but only because I did ask him. I had enough coaches to tell me what was right and wrong. He didn't need to do that either. Dancing with the Stars, yeah, that was a different one. You know what? I loved it. Had a great time. I never looked better in sequins. I couldn't dance for shit.
You got better.
I did it with a smile as much as I could.
You didn't watch it. You watched it, Glenn.
I watched it. You got better.
You have got a man crush on Travis Cloke, I tell you what.
But yeah, it was great. So I enjoyed it. It's good fun.
And just the mental health stuff. How many talks do you do? As you said there, the social media stuff is so worrying. But do you feel like in other ways we are at least gaining an understanding of how to help these players with anxiety and mental health?
Oh, definitely. I think the more we just talk about it is the best way to go about it. Informal or formal conversations you have are fantastic. Sometimes it's just sharing something on social media. A post of "Are you okay?" day. I think it's fantastic. It's a great thing. It's just a reminder. But it doesn't mean just one day a year you talk about it. It's just something that's ongoing. November do some fantastic thing, obviously in November when they grow the moustache, but they do some other really good awareness of testicular cancer early in the year. I think there's just great things that are happening. And I'm not just in the male space of mental health, but also for children and women as well. Postnatal, prenatal depression, all these things. It's so important that we talk about it now, where once upon a time we didn't talk about any of this. This was all swept under the cover. You deal with it in your own private life behind closed doors. Now we're seeing people come out and talk about it. And I think that's the positive change. I don't want to see an incident where we lose someone or someone self-harm because of this, or they felt that they weren't able to share with someone because someone was too busy. We're all got our own busy life, but if someone taps you on the shoulder and say, I need a conversation, let's grab a coffee, drop everything you're doing, grab it, because you'll never forgive yourself if you don't.
Well, and I think that we're so close to that having happened with Majak Dor as well. Just to think of how, we didn't need that wake-up call, but the more we can do, the better.
It was, and I think that's the thing. It was a wake-up call for Majak for what has gone on, and I think now we look at that and say, what a fantastic story. He's gone on, he's got a young child, he's back playing footy. We almost saw him round one, but he got sick. So the insecurities of that, but I just don't want an incident or a repercussion of what that happened because of everything that was going on. I think for him, without knowing everything, I think it was a bit of accumulation of so much that had gone on for so many years of previous things that had happened, people were still bringing up. So I feel for him. What a fantastic story. Wouldn't you want a body like his?
Well, you did have one,
I know.
Pretty much close to that. You were the next best thing as well. Travis Cloke, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Trav.